Okay, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
Susan, you bought a car not long ago.
Yeah.
It was. How are you doing with it? You like it?
I like it a lot. I'm the kind of person, though, I'm averse to change. So it takes a lot for me to fall in love with a new vehicle.
Right.
And I'll drive it hopefully forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Until the wheels fall off, and then I'll do it all over again.
It's an SUV, so you got the family. And how much did you look into the safety aspect of it, or were you looking more like the bottom line?
No, you know what? It all plays a part, right? Like, you look at the safety ratings, you look at the different crash testing information. For us, we wanted the 3-row because I have some fun news.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
We're having baby 3.
Whoa.
So we
dun,
needed,
dun, dun.
yeah, I know. No, that's good news.
That is great
not the
news.
Happy,
Yes.
So we wanted the extra space.
Yeah.
But I hadn't been car shopping in a long time. But the car that I was replacing was a 2006.
Oh, wow.
So like that's how technology has changed like crazy since then. Right?
Oh, I mean, 2006. I mean, you had power windows
basic.
at least.
Yeah. It's basic. Yeah. But that's what we were replacing. So for me, like the first couple test drives I took, I felt a little bit like I was driving a spaceship.
Yeah. I mean, the new things they have on here now, it's like a rocket ship, like you said. So, hey, I watched a commercial not long ago, and I'm not going to say the manufacturer of the car, but it piqued my interest because it was the woman was driving the car, and there was silence in the cabin, and she looked at her son, and she pushed this button, and all of a sudden it started driving for her. And then she started to do sign language with her kid. Obviously, he could not hear or speak, so she wanted to have a conversation with him. And she was like, "Oh, so let's talk. How are things going?" And they start at it. Which initially I thought to myself, "Wow, that is really, really cool." So she can do sign language, and the car drives for her. But then in the back of my head, I was like, is this really safe?
Yeah, you're kind of supposed to pay attention, even if those systems are driving for you, quote unquote. You're supposed to be engaged in the process.
Right. And at that point, she's engaged with trying to see what her son is saying, while at the same time she, needs to sign back. It's an interesting topic, and that's what we're talking about today. I mean, how safe are these cars? We're talking to David Harkey. He is the president of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. David, how are you today?
Very good, Gary. Good to be with you and Susan.
Yeah, we really appreciate you being on the On Your Side podcast. And people are very familiar with you and IIHS because you guys have really raised the bar when it comes to safety. You've got a lot of feathers in your cap with testing these cars and making them safer and bringing some things to light for the manufacturers.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is historically we look at real world crashes that are occurring, try to figure out what sort of tests we need to come up with to then encourage automakers to produce safer vehicles. What we're talking about now are how do we make sure that these partial driving automation systems, including the ones that you can take your hands off of the steering wheel with, how do we make sure that those systems are safe? And that's what our new ratings program, our Safeguards ratings program, is all about.
Walk us through, let's start just at the base definition for our listeners. When we're talking about partial driving automation, what are we actually talking about? What are these cars doing for us that we don't have to maybe do?
Yeah, so these are systems that have adaptive cruise control. So if you think about cars that have that, they can maintain a speed, they can also maintain a distance from a vehicle that you may be following, and they combine that with lane keeping technology. So the ability to provide steering input and keep the vehicle in the center of the lane. And when you put those two things together, the ability to control speed and distance with lane keeping, then you have partial driving automation.
Funny story, I bought my wife a car not long ago and seemed to drive nice. It was new. She was happy. And then when I was driving it one day, not long after buying it, I felt like the wheels were out of balance or something. I'm like, what is going on here?
The car didn't like how you drove.
No, it was what David was just talking about. It was, I guess I was going into maybe the center line or the shoulder line, and it was telling me
Alert,
alert, you need to straighten out your car. Yeah. And I'm like, I thought it was a wheel thing or something. So
Are
I'm
you
like,
a better driver now because of it?
I am apparently. Well, I have to be, because if not, it'll be.
Keeps you in line. So walk us through these tests. What do you actually do to test these systems?
So we have a series of tests that we've come up with that are looking at three unique different things. One of those is, first of all, you have to have the safety features in the vehicle turned on before you can activate this system. Simple things like have your seatbelt buckled, have automatic emergency braking turned on, have lane departure prevention turned on, which is what Gary was just alluding to, and how that system works. We're also looking at how well the system monitors the driver. So it has a camera in the cabin that looks at the driver's head and eyes, make sure you're looking ahead at the roadway. It also takes a look at your hands to make sure, for some of these hands-free systems, to make sure that your hands are free. You're not holding a phone, you're not holding anything in your hand that prevents you from taking over quickly. And then the third piece is we're looking at how well warnings are provided, attention reminders are provided to the driver. If you're looking away from the road too long, we want to make sure we get you back focused on driving. And so there are audible, visual, and even haptic reminders that may vibrate the steering wheel or the seat to make sure we get you back into the driving task. And we're evaluating all of those things when we look at these systems.
I don't want to steal a lot of your thunder, but you found that there was a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, out of the 14 systems we evaluated on 9 different vehicles that included passenger cars, SUVs, pickups, out of those 14 systems, 11 of them got a poor rating, and 2 got a marginal rating, and then 1 got an acceptable rating. We had no vehicles that got our top rating of good. So yes, there's definitely a lot of work to be done.
I mean, that's a lot of categories to pass, and I think it's great for safety. At the end of the day, though, I always wonder, why do we even have these things when we're supposed to be driving the car ourselves anyway? I mean, hands-free, it doesn't really sound like a great idea. Your hands should be on the steering wheel the entire time. What's behind these new features that are so appealing to people? It doesn't make sense. Of course you're supposed to keep your eyes on the road. You're driving a car 65 miles an hour down the interstate. Why wouldn't you want to keep your eyes on the road? But these features are out there saying, oh, you can look away and nothing will alert you to look back. What's so appealing about that?
Yeah, we agree. I think one of the things that we're very concerned about, there are more and more of these systems now available on new cars, and they're going to continue to grow in terms of being available. And one of the things that we want to make sure that automakers are implementing these systems in a way that is going to keep the driver safe. That's our most important aspect. And we want consumers to understand what these systems can and cannot do. That's part of the goal of our release, is to make sure that happens. And then the other part is we are actually filling a regulatory gap here. The US DOT has no requirements for automakers on how these systems should be designed, what factors they should consider, and how they are to be integrated into vehicles. And so we felt like with more of these systems coming online, now is the time for us to put out there what we think are the criteria to consider and how these vehicles are performing.
You brought it up, so let's just dig into it a little bit, what these vehicles can do and what they cannot or should not be doing. What are the should nots?
Well, the should not is these are not self-driving cars. That's one of the most important things that I think the public gets confused sometimes when you talk about these systems, because they are new. The technology is impressive. And when you're in these vehicles, they can do a lot in terms of keeping that vehicle in the lane and maintaining that speed and distance that we were talking about. But they are not self-driving. You have to pay attention at all times. You have to be ready to respond to any situation that occurs on the roadway. And I think that's one of the most important things, to continue to get that message out there to the consumer.
Why do you think it feels like we're putting the cart before the horse when we're coming out with all these new features, but there's really, I hate to say regulation, but there's really no regulation on there. And you said the U.S. DOT is trying to get involved, but I guess this is kind of like a big thing for manufacturers because they could say, oh, look what we offer now. We offer this hands-off, the steering wheel feature, but they don't have to get any kind of like discretion or permission or anything from the higher ups on this, and they're just putting them out on the street.
Yeah, that's right. And they have the ability to do that. And they are marketing them as convenience features, not as safety features. They are marketing them as convenience features. These are technologies that can help make your drive easier. But the truth is, we are not very good as human beings at monitoring systems. That's just not something we do well. There's lots of research in various disciplines that show that we don't do a good job of that. And that's what you're asking the driver to do in this situation, is to let the vehicle take control of a few of these tasks, and then you monitor it. And then you take control if you need to, if the vehicle tells you need to. And that's not something that we think is the right direction to go in when it comes to these systems.
No telling what's going to come down the future. I mean, you may be driving and say, I'm hungry, I want a ham sandwich. And then some AI is in the back making a sandwich and then tosses it to you in the
That
front
sounds
seat.
nice. I'll take that feature.
Oh, boy.
What are the auto manufacturers actually saying in response to some of your findings from these tests? Are they kind of pushing it off and saying, poo-poo, you're not having fun with this new technology that could really improve people's lives? Or are they taking it to heart and making changes?
No, I think the good news story of this is the automakers are already responding. They have been aware since we started looking at this program more than a year ago when we started thinking about this. They've been involved. We've kept them apprised of what we've been doing, and they agree in principle that with what we're trying to do. They may not agree specifically with some of the criteria we're using or how we're judging the systems, but they agree in principle that you got to keep the driver safe. And some of the automakers have already told us they're making changes. Some of these changes can be made via software. And so some of them are already making changes. They want us to evaluate their next generation system already to see how much better it performs. And we will do that at some point. We will take a look at the new systems, the new vehicles, the updates, the upgrades that have been made, and we will keep those ratings updated on our website.
David, I like how you and the Institute kind of hold the manufacturer's feet to the fire, as they say, because they don't want to be the one manufacturer who doesn't want to improve anything while the competitors are improving things and they're kind of left in the dark. So good for you, and good to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Hey, if people want to know more about this report and they want to find out who the manufacturers were and what the rating was given, and where do they go if they want to find out more about you or more about that report?
Yeah, you can go to our website at iihs.org, and you'll be able to find these ratings. You'll also be able to find all of our vehicle ratings when it comes to top safety pick criteria, how well the vehicles are doing with respect to crash worthiness, collision avoidance technologies. So everything's on our website, iihs.org.
Yeah, it used to be how well you did in a collision, and now we're doing these features. I think it's a great idea.
It's all the different pieces of puzzle coming together.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. Hey, David Harkey, thank you so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. We really appreciate it. And thanks for all the work you do, okay?
Thank you.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.